Welcome back to the Becoming Mind Strong podcast. I'm going to tell you honestly, behind the scenes, I originally was going to call this episode How to Tell If You're in Perimenopause, because as you'll see as we go on, the other two, meaning menopause itself and postmenopause, those are kind of quick and dirty answers, whereas perimenopause is more in depth. And I figured I'd use this opportunity to better understand those terms so that we can better understand what the heck is going on in our body. So today we are diving deep into how to tell where you are in this menopausal journey with a little bit of an emphasis on perimenopause. Check it out. So I want to start this conversation with a definition of terms. And in doing so, I'm going to kind of give away the farm on the other two, which is why we're going to focus a bit more on perimenopause here. There are three quote unquote stages when it comes to menopause. Perimenopause means coming up to menopause, and we're going to talk more about that one in a second here. Menopause itself, and this is where a lot of people get confused because, again, nobody's teaching this stuff. I pray that one day we are teaching this stuff in med school so you and I are not going into this stage of life completely blind. Menopause itself is one day. It is a very technical term. It is the day you go 12 months without your cycle. That is your menopause day. Okay? Postmenopause is the rest of your life after that. So you have your one day of menopause, starting the next day. For as long as you are on this big, beautiful earth, you are in postmenopause. So peri is leading up, menopause itself one day, rest of your life is postmenopause. This is why you heard me say in the intro, we're gonna focus more on perimenopause because that's the quick and dirty answer for menopause itself, one day, postmenopause, rest of your life. Perimenopause is where I see women getting gaslit by their doctors time and time again. So here are some things that we need to know about perimenopause. Number one, it can start as young as 34, 35. And honestly, there are some women who are actually going into it even earlier. But average, we're going to say 34, 35. Here is the most important thing I can tell you about perimenopause. It is not a blood work diagnosis. And when I say this is where I see women get gaslit time and time again, this is what's happening. They're going to their doctor. They're saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. They're listing out their symptoms, right? I don't feel like myself. My anxiety's sky high. My cycle's irregular. I feel like my emotions are all over the place. All my sleep is disrupted. All the things that we know are changing in our body. So then their doctor goes and does some blood work and comes back and says, well, you're fine. And then we're sitting there feeling crazy because we're like, I know my body. I am not fine. But hey, this is the doctor. They know better than I do. I must be okay. Hear me and hear me now. Put it on a Post-it on your bathroom mirror, tattoo it on your forehead, do what we have to do. Menopause, perimenopause, etc., is not a blood work diagnosis. It is a symptom diagnosis. And I'm going to add one more little tidbit in here. Your hormones are going to fluctuate all over the place for the first 6 years of postmenopause. So a lot of people rush to go to blood work to see what's going on. And reality is, if you tested today and you tested tomorrow and you tested next week, you're going to get different levels all the time. It is going to fluctuate for the first 6 years. Now, back to the conversation about perimenopause. My kind of tongue-in-cheek but also serious answer for women when they say, how do I know if I'm in perimenopause? My goofy but true answer is, if you think you're in perimenopause, most likely you are in perimenopause. And I usually don't even say most likely. If you think you're in perimenopause, you're in perimenopause. Because the reality is, you and I have lived in these bodies for a long time. Right? Yes, we have days we feel a little off, and some days we feel giggly, and some days we don't feel so great. For the most part, you and I know our bodies. So when things start shifting and you're like, oh, that's weird. I haven't really changed anything, but my body composition looks different. Huh, that's interesting. Maybe I've never had anxiety, and suddenly it's flaring up. Maybe I've always had lower levels of anxiety, and suddenly things that used to be a 3 are now a 10. Maybe I don't even recognize myself because it feels like my mood is shifting every 10 seconds. Maybe I'm someone who's never struggled with sleep, and now what the heck is going on, right? All of these daily things, we know our body better than anyone else. And if it's been a bit, right? It's been a few weeks, it's been a few months, whatever that feels like for you and your body. And you can say, wait a second, something feels off. Like it wasn't just last week. It wasn't just yesterday. Like this has been going on for a while. I think something might be shifting. Ding, ding, ding. Chances are I would place my life savings on the fact that you are in perimenopause. Okay. Now, what I don't want you to do, the whole point of this episode, besides clarifying some phrases for you, is go to your doctor, get the blood work done. They tell you you're fine. Now you feel gaslit. Now you feel crazy. If you think you are in perimenopause, chances are you are in perimenopause. Everything we teach here, if you're newer to the world of Mind Strong, you'll learn this as you dive in. If you've been here for a while, you know this. The vast majority of these very natural hormonal imbalances, right? There are biological changes that happen in our body in menopause. It's how we're designed. This is what's supposed to happen. The vast majority of them can be solved, cured, whatever word you want to use there. I don't like the word cured. It sounds like we're broken, but it can be fixed with nutrition alone. I'm going to interrupt this episode real quickly to ask a 30-second favor. If you are loving the podcast, if you can tap that 5-star review button above, maybe even leave a few nice words, it is the biggest help to getting the podcast out there. As the time I'm recording this, we don't advertise the podcast, so we rely on our old friend, the algorithm, to help get it in the hands of other women. Leaving a review is the absolute number one way to help us do that. Thank you in advance. Thank you, thank you. Now let's get back to the episode. And the good news is, we can fix this. Again, I don't love the word fix, but for lack of a better term, I'm going to use it here. No matter where you are, if you happen to come and get your nutrition in check on your one day of menopause, I don't know that I've ever seen that, but let's say you did, or if you're 8 years into postmenopause, this is quote unquote fixable with nutrition alone. That said, my favorite time to get my hands in the dirt with someone is in perimenopause, right? Because this is where our body's starting to shift. This is kind of a weird analogy, but like the reason I love teaching middle school is it's this very transitional stage of life, right? It's messy. We don't know who we are. There's all this peer pressure. And I'm like, look, if I can teach you life skills at this messy time of life, by the time you get to high school, college, you are going to be this rock solid, quote unquote, person going forward. That's perimenopause to me. It's kind of like the middle school pubescent weird stage of life where our body's changing. And the point in this terrible analogy is if we can get our hands in the dirt and start to do this work now, I'm not going to say you're going to sail through menopause. There's this part of that is genetics. Some people sail through, most don't. And if we were going to call the menopausal symptoms coming up, if we were going to call them a 9, we can get them down to like a 4 or 5, depending on your body. Some people can get them down to a 1. So my point in saying this is my favorite time to get my hands in the dirt with someone is if they're like, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. I think I'm in perimenopause. Like things are not working the way they used to. Yes, let's get your nutrition in check, because the longer we go digging this hole, we can still do the work. And, if that 6-inch hole is 6 miles long, we got a bit more work to do. If we can nip this in the bud at that moment where you're like, I think I'm in perimenopause, we're only going to set you up for success as you go through these stages of your one day of menopause and post-menopause going forward. Now, that said, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm 12 years into post-menopause, again, everything we do nutritionally works no matter what stage you're in. My point in saying this is if the sooner we can nip it in the bud, the better your results are going to be, the faster they're going to come. So we're going to keep this episode kind of quick and dirty because the other 2 terms, as you heard, are a bit more textbook. Menopause, your one day that you've gone 12 months without a cycle. The rest of your life, you are in postmenopause. Perimenopause is the time leading up to that. 34, 35 is kind of the average. It can be earlier. Of course, it can be later as well. The single most important thing that I can leave you with in this episode is it is a symptom diagnosis. It is not a blood work diagnosis. And the thing I always tell women is if your doctor does not know that, find another doctor. And that is not a joke. That is not hyperbole. That is a serious statement. If your doctor thinks that the way they're going to diagnose if you're in perimenopause is by taking blood work, I can promise you, I've been doing this a long time with a lot of women, I can promise you the years ahead are going to be more and more frustrating, because what your doctor has just told you is, I don't understand menopause, and I'm going to spend the next 10 years telling you things that make the problem worse. These are the doctors, and I don't say this to poo-poo on doctors. They don't know this stuff. Nobody's teaching this in medical school yet. But these are the doctors telling women, just eat less, move more. No, you're not losing weight, eat even less. You must not be doing it because otherwise you'd be losing. And by the time they come to us, they're eating 800, 600, I've seen as low as 500 calories a day because their own doctor told them to do this because their doctor does not understand menopause. If your doctor tells you, let's do some blood work to see if you're in menopause, run, don't walk. Now, I'm not saying don't get blood work, right? It can help to have a baseline of where your hormones are at. My point in this rant right now is if they're using that in an attempt to diagnose menopause, that's where you want to run, not walk. Blood work can be helpful to see a baseline, a starting point, knowing that our hormones are going to fluctuate, okay? If you think you're in perimenopause, I would bet my life savings on the fact that you know your body better than anyone else. If that is you, the sooner we can get your nutrition in check, the better. If you're in your 1 day of menopause, I happen to catch you on a pivotal day of your life, it means you've gone 12 months without your cycle. A lot of people, by the way, don't know that day, right? We don't know where that actually lands. The rest of your life is post-menopause, whether you're in peri or post. Nutrition is king. And if you're in peri, go join my workshop or take in some of my content, because the sooner we can nip this in the bud, the more set up for success you're going to be. I am hosting the largest event we have ever done in MindStrong history, and you don't want to miss it. From March 3rd through 5th, 2026, join me live on Zoom, totally free, for MindStrong's Runway to Summer, my 3-day metabolism boosting challenge. To join and for more details, go to www.mindstrongfitness.com/challenge or just use the link in the show notes below.